What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today it's time to finally start looking at some Star Wars Destiny cards. Yes, I know that Covert Missions has been delayed until next month. Of course, that makes me sad, why would it not? But it's still coming, we're still getting new cards, and we're getting a character which I was not expecting to really see. And it's one that I really like, though I am a little bit biased. Pong Krell! Pong Krell is finally coming! That makes me kind of happy. Now, I did, of course, do some openings of some Star Wars Destiny boxes. I will link them in the description. So, Covert Missions then. I want to start with Pong Krell. Now, I know that not everyone is massively impressed by him as a character. I'm fine with that. It is a 12 or 15 cost. It's got 11 health. And it's got a dice which does a little bit of melee damage. Or you can get a bit of focus to turn one dice in your pool to the side of your choice. Or you can get a little bit of discard to discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Or you can generate a resource. But what's really interesting to me here is the ability that lets you include up to 4 different blue hero cards in your deck. Now, this is one of those weird cards where it's really hard to look at it and go, well, which ones are we going to include? Because actually there's probably a bunch in Covert Missions that we haven't seen yet, which are kind of tailor-made for it. But the fact that you can include hero cards in a villain deck really does open up deck building options. Now, after you activate the character, you may place a hero card in any player's discard pile on the bottom of their deck, then deal 1 damage to a character. So not only can you play blue hero cards in your deck, but you can actually keep getting it back and deal a little bit of damage at the same time. That sounds like fun to me. But it's probably his lightsaber that excites me a little bit more. Now, it is a free cost, which is kind of sad. But you've got some damage, or some added damage, some shield, some resource, or if you pay a resource, and flip the right side, of course, you can deal 2 damage to up to 2 characters. That's a lot. Now, it's also got a power action that lets you spot Pong Krell, or spend a resource to roll a set-aside copy of this die into your pool, and then you set it back aside after it is resolved or removed. So not only can you use Pong Krell's lightsaber here, but you can actually get 2 copies of the dice to come along with it. That sounds like fun to me, especially if you can be activating the ability on the die to do 2 damage to up to 2 characters. This seems good, but it's obviously significantly better when played with Pong Krell. And is it really good enough to be a 15 cost character? General opinion that I've been looking at tends to say maybe not. But it is going down a little bit better than Anakin Skywalker Dedicated Mentor. Yeah, there's a new Anakin Skywalker because we've never seen one of those before. Now, it is a blue hero. This is very much the blue spoilers, as it were. And you can do 1 melee damage, 2 melee damage, 4 melee damage, spending a resource, or get a shield or get a resource. But after you activate this character, you may discard a card from your hand to move 1 shield from a character to another character, and if you moved it to an apprentice, you get to draw yourself a card. And I say this like all the time in pretty much every game I'm talking about. Drawing extra cards is always good. More cards to play, more cards to discard to reroll dice, etc. It's a fun thing. Now, this obviously is really asking you to play it with an apprentice. The obvious combo here is with Ahsoka Tano Brash Prodigy. It fits in terms of cost and it is an apprentice, etc. So maybe that's a pairing you could go for, if that's what you're into. But Anakin Skywalker does also get a lightsaber. Now, it is a free cost again, as many of them tend to be. But you can do 2 melee damage, 2 melee damage, plus 2 melee damage, get a couple of shields or a resource, and it's got redeploy. So if the character gets KO'd that's wielding it, hey look, now you can move it on to somebody else. So it's nice that it stays around for a little bit. But you discard it from play if you control Rey's lightsaber. Of course, this did become Rey's lightsaber in the sequel trilogy, so I really enjoy what we've got going there in terms of it being thematically appropriate. Now after you play this upgrade, you give a character you don't control 1 shield, and then give any character 2 shields. So give a shield to one of your opponents, but then give 2 to one of you, so, that could work. And of course it could replace Rey's lightsaber, especially when that goes the way of rotation. Oh, and I should mention, I forgot to say, Anakin is a 15 or 19 cost character. The 13 health is quite high, but that is a very expensive character. Now there was one more revealed. It was Canon Jarrus Jedi Exile. Much more reasonable 9 cost or 12 cost with 9 health. And you can do 1 or 2 melee damage, 1 discard, generate a shield, or generate a resource. And what it does is its point value is decreased by 1 if your team has another Spectre. And again, there are probably going to be other Spectres in the set we haven't seen yet. We'll have to wait and see. But the fact that you can get this going a little bit cheaper makes me rather excited, especially when you consider that we've still got Spectre sell at the moment. This could work out quite nicely. Now, after you activate this character, you may choose a symbol and a die. Then an opponent turns that die to a side not showing the chosen symbol. So you can't force them to a particular side, but you can force them away from a particular side, and that can be very useful. Stop that damage which is going to hurt you, stop the discard which you can't afford, etc. Now Canon Jarrus also has a lightsaber. It's also a free cost, and you can either do 2 melee damage, 3 melee damage at the cost of a resource, plus 3 melee damage, get a shield, or plus 2 shields. And after an opponent's die is turned, you may turn this die to any side. Then if the upgrade is on Canon Jarrus, you may exhaust it to turn one of his character dice to any side. So this really lets you choose what your dice are going to be. You actually get to turn this die, and as long as it's attached to Canon, one of his die to the side you actually want it to be, getting the shields you need, the damage you need, etc. That seems like there's a lot of potential here, especially when that 12 cost isn't really a 12 cost, because we've got ways of bringing it down. That sounds like quite a lot of fun to me. Now, there were some non-character cards revealed as well. My boy Pong Krell did get a rather nice card bearing his image, Quad Slam. It is a 2-cost event, and you choose up to 4 characters and remove 1 character die belonging to each of them. It's not always going to work perfectly, although the fact that he's got 4 arms, you're removing 4 dice. Again, thematically this works very nicely. But I love the fact here that you could potentially really just wreck your opponent's dice. If played at the right time, I mean, this might not always work. But when it works, it could be absolutely devastating. Could be one of the best 2 resources you've ever spent. Yeah, might be an exaggeration. I love the card. But I love Pong Krell, so maybe I'm overrating his cards a little bit. Either way, I'm kind of cool with it. So, what else have we got here? Well, we have got ourselves a couple of plots. And another event. Do the event first. We got Bestow Wisdom. It is a 1-cost event. You spot a Jedi or a Sith to move up to 2 blue abilities from that character to an Apprentice character. So clearly here, this would fit very nicely into the Anakin Ahsoka deck if that's what we were planning to play. People don't seem to be going crazy for the deck, but it is an option. And then we have Infused the Force. You can either spot a Sith to deal 1 damage to a character, it's a 1-cost card. You can spot a Jedi to give a character a shield, or you can spot an Apprentice to draw a card. In a perfect situation here, you'd be able to use all 3 of them at the same time, deal a damage, gain a shield, and draw a card. For 1 resource, that's a good amount of stuff. Realistically, you're probably looking at getting 2 of these at the most. But then again, dealing a damage and drawing a card, or giving a shield and drawing a card, might be worth the resource depending on the circumstances, so might be one to consider. Now we have a couple plots as well, one for Jedi, one for Sith. Jedi Trials is an action. You spot an Apprentice character that has 3 blue abilities, 3 shields, and its character dice are showing a combined value of 3 or more. Then you heal 3 damage from it, ready it, and it gains Jedi, and you get to gain a die. I.e., you get an extra copy of that character's dice, pop it on it. And this is phenomenally powerful. You know, healing 3 damage and readying it and gaining it a die is wonderful. The problem is you've got to get a character with 3 blue abilities on and 3 shields and get a combined value of 3 or more on the dice without your opponent taking that character down. And sometimes you're going to be able to. The question is, are you going to be able to do it often enough to make it worth playing? Rule of 2, doesn't cost nothing. If you do not control exactly 2 characters, one that is a Sith and the other an Apprentice, set this plot aside and deal 1 indirect damage to yourself. Not great. But it's got an action, and if you have exactly 1 character die in your pool, exhaust this plot to resolve it and increase its value by 1. So the indirect damage can hurt you, that's not ideal, literally and figuratively. But being able to increase the value of any die, that could be useful, ladies and gentlemen. That could be useful. For me, the real highlight of these cards was seeing Pong Krell finally coming in. And I know that not everybody's into it. That's fine by me. This can be my, hey, let's give it a go. My deck building passion, as it were. Desperately trying to make it work. Incidentally, if you've got any ideas brewing for him, let me know in the comment section. I'd be very excited. It is canon Jarrus that seems to be generating the most excitement here. And you can see there are some things to like about that one. But I'd like to know what you like, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to know which of these cards is exciting you. I'd like to know what you're seeing. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. But do remember to be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we can talk Destiny and any other cards that take your fancy, any other games that take your fancy. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.